Jordan owned the West Bank. So there's been no call for an Arab state, for a Palestinian state.
Many people criticize the state of Israel. What people don't realize is that some of their statements can be considered anti-Semitic. With a little education, people can learn where that line is drawn.
Anti-Semitism around the world is not something new. It has been around as long as Jews have been around. And it goes through various cycles. In some parts of the world, it grows, it magnifies, while in other parts it declines. And then within 100 years, it's the reverse.
Hi, my name is Avital. I go to Esther Miller Base Yaakov, which is a private, all-girls Orthodox high school. Sorry. One of my friends in Florida was shopping, and this guy came up to her, and it was very obvious that she was Jewish. She was wearing a very long skirt, and she just looked Jewish. I don't know how to say that, but she looked Jewish, and he started yelling at her, and people just kept on watching, and no one was saying anything. And she started crying, and no one was standing up for herself, and she wasn't standing up for herself because she didn't know how to. And then people were just taking out their phones and recording it, and then she just ran away. So she told that story to me, and I was crying with her because it was just so sad.
We travel around to different schools in the St. Louis area who have a little or non-existent Jewish population, and teach about Judaism in the hopes of combating anti-Semitism.
I love after I present. I feel so good about myself because I realize that I love being a Jewish teenager and I love educating people. And it's just fun to see how they react to when I tell them about my life.
And in today's day and age, when blatant anti-Semitism isn't woke, people are using anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, and that is a new form of anti-Semitism.
A lot of bigotry and hate stems from a lack of education. People are afraid of whatever is different from them. So we try to fight against bigotry and anti-Semitism through education, because if they are more educated and if they know more about us, then they'll know that we are basically the same as them, and then there's no reason for them to hate us.
There are some very legitimate criticisms that can be offered, just like with any other country. But how do you know if anti-Israel sentiment or anti-Zionist sentiment is anti-Semitic? If it meets any of the criteria known as the 3 Ds. There's demonization, there's double standard, or delegitimization. So if a person were to say Israel doesn't have a right to exist, that would be considered anti-Semitic. If people were to say that Israel is an apartheid state, that would be considered anti-Semitic. To say that Israel's army has made mistakes and innocent people have been killed, that would be a legitimate criticism. Right? There's no double standard there. But to accuse Israel of abuse of human rights when no one says anything about China, North Korea, etc., that would be considered a double standard, and then that would be considered anti-Semitic. So those are really the tools, the markers to determine whether something is anti-Semitic or a legitimate criticism of Israel.
With this useful information, people can now know whether their criticism is proper or anti-Semitic. I'm Zach Hearst, reporting for Ladue View.
And then the Nakba narrative, which says the Arabs don't want any Jews in the land at all.